Hey folks, welcome back to the farm. It's a beautiful, bright, sunshiny day out here in central Nebraska. Got a nice little breeze going, keeping things a little cooler. We were going to do some weed spray today, but that's not going to be in the cards with this breeze, so we're going to go ahead and do some harvesting. We went hoeing around out in the garden this morning and got the weeds taken care of over the last few days. We had a little rain last weekend, which caused a little weeds in our walk path in the garden. So we spent a little time with the wheel hoe this morning and got rid of those. So let's get out in the garden and get things harvested. I think the first thing we're going to do is try to give Ruby a little impromptu bath. She, for some reason, goes out in the pasture and finds the greenest, nastiest cow poop she can find, and then she rolls in it. So I just kind of squirt her down with the hose. She thinks she's playing in it, but I'm really giving her a little bath. And then she'll dry out before we go in the house and not be so nasty. Oh, Ruby. We've about got her clean. Looks like fun. She's shaken off about 3 or 4 times already, so I think we got her. Give you a quick look at the garden out here before we get going. Look at those onions, baby. They're almost waist high. Got some good zucchini squash growing out here. All the cabbages and everything are doing good. So let's go get our little bushel basket and we'll get to pulling some stuff. First thing we're going to pick is some of our edible pod snow peas here. Got a pretty good bunch of them to pick. Don't want to let them get them too big because then they get tough. Most of these sometimes don't even make it out of the garden because I pick them while I'm out here and I eat them. And they're very well camouflaged. You can come through here and pick them and come back 10 minutes later and you'll see some that you missed. So we look them over pretty good as we're going. Here's some way up top here. These are really good in stir fry, but they're really good right out of the garden too. Now while we're down here picking, if we see any weeds that are sneaking up in the row in the middle of them peas, we go ahead and pull those out because it's an opportune time to do so. It's a lot easier than coming back and trying to weed later. You can see we got a pretty good mess of peas here. Be plenty for dinner and even for some fresh salad here the next couple days. They're really good in salad. And I want to show you something real quick. These edible pod beans, they stay tender and sweet up until the time they start actually making round peas inside. So we'll split this baby open and we'll show you. See, there's peas starting to form inside your actual peas. And these things are still tender and sweet. You can still eat them right up into the time they start producing peas. They're still really tender, very sweet. I hope we still have some of these growing when Ramona gets here because she will actually love eating these in the garden. Now those peas are going to produce a large part of the summer, and we'll have those to eat about that much every week that we just got. And when we get tired of picking them, what will happen is they'll swell up and they'll have full-size peas in the pods. And then Kelly picked them all last year and actually shelled them and we had just the round peas for a couple nights for dinner. Were super good. Very sweet. When I was a kid, I hated peas because I was used to the school cafeteria peas that come out of a can that were just disgusting. But my first ex-wife convinced me to plant some peas. And when I had the fresh peas out of the garden, just knocked my socks off, and I've been growing them ever since. So don't be afraid to try new things when you get older. It's been a few days since we picked zucchini. You can tell that they're ready to go again. So we're going to get some of these picked. You can see our beautiful specimens right there. All these plants are growing at the same rate. So every few days we have about one zucchini off of each plant. These are all similar in size. And that gives us 5 zucchinis to play with. So it's working out good. Next thing we're going to harvest is a good batch of our green onions. So we can use those in the house. We use them in salads and stir fries and also some fried rice. Whenever we want a little onion flavor, you can put them in omelets. Work really good. So we're going to get some dug up. That ought to be plenty. So we like giving our veggies a nice cool bath before we take them in the house. We got this giant colander that we use for veggies out here in the garden. We got it last year's junk jaunt. It washed some of the dirt and stuff off of these veggies. Plus it'll crisp them up a bit with a cold water bath. And if they've got any impurities, any dirt or anything on stuff, rinses it all out before we get it into the house. Beautiful stuff. All right, we've got those veggies in the house. The next thing we're going to do out here before we call it a day is we need to come get these lower limbs on the tomatoes again. Anything that's down towards the ground we clip off because we don't want them to get disease when it rains. And it's okay to prune these all year long. It doesn't hurt anything. So I'll come up 10 inches, maybe even sometimes a foot off the ground and prune those off. So that's what they look like when we're done. What happens is when it rains, stuff splashes up off the ground onto those bottom leaves and they'll pick up a disease. But the tomatoes are doing really well out here. You can see on this plant here, we already got a tomato on there, which is really cool. All right, we got all of our tomatoes pruned. And anything that was tall enough, we weaved it back through the panel. This one here got kind of upside down, but it'll turn around as it grows to the sun. But real pleased with how they're growing. All of our cabbages here doing super good. They're starting to head up real nicely. Our Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and broccoli looking good. Celery on the ends. All of our watermelons and cantaloupe, they're growing. This acorn squash here we were having issues with because this thing shriveled up and died. So when I pulled another one out of the greenhouse and planted it out here, when I dug down, I dug right into an ant colony. So the ants were sucking the life out of that little plant. So once we transplanted, I put one of these little taro ant bait, liquid ant bait things down here by the base of the plant. And that has seemed to take care of the ant problem, because the plant is looking real healthy now and doing good. All of our peppers, now that we're getting warmer temperatures, are starting to take off. We have 6 more, I believe, habaneros or jalapenos. I think these are the jalapenos, but we got 6 more to finish out this row here. It's looking like we're going to need to throw some water on either tonight or in the morning. Here's our watermelon, one of our varieties. This is the butternut squash, is already starting to vine. As I come out and weed, I just take my hoe and I drag the ends of those runners out so they kind of stay in the row. But everything's looking good. We have a little bit of cabbage worm going out here, but they'll eat the outer leaves and a little bit on the head of the cabbage. But if you peel off 3 or 4 leaves, you get down to a good head. So they don't totally kill your cabbage. You can see the marigolds are blooming out here, and we've already picked some fresh dill and used it in the house. We don't have any cucumbers yet, but they are vining really nicely. You can see them down on that trellis down there. We've been weaving that through as it vines. And it won't be too long we'll be harvesting onions, I think. Some of the onions have already been producing seed heads, which means they're getting close to maturity. And we'll be out here pulling onions to dry. Here's our peppers almost ready to go. We still got to get that basil planted out. And we've got some extra odds and ends here in case we have any issues. Some watermelon, cantaloupe, and squash here. Well, let's go in and rehydrate and take care of the vegetables that we already have in the house. So the first thing we're going to take care of is these green onions. We're going to get these, go over, do a final wash in the sink, and we're not going to shake too much of the water off of them. We want them kind of damp, and then we bring them over here and lay them on the paper towel. The paper towel is going to soak up some of the water, and then we're going to keep these wrapped in a moist paper towel, and it'll preserve these things for quite a long time in the fridge. All right, we got them on our paper towel. You can see they're not like perfectly clean, but we clean them as we use them as well. So now we're just going to roll these up in the paper towel. So the next thing we did is we just put them on the cutting board and we trimmed the ends off because there were some little brown bits on the ends and such. They're nice uniform green onions now, so now we'll bag them up and put them in the fridge. You don't want to put them in a airtight bag. You just want to put them in like a loose covered bag. There's our onions ready for the fridge. Got all our snow peas cleaned up real nice, and they just go in a Ziploc and put in the fridge. These are going to be eaten within the next couple days. Now our zucchini we're not going to be able to eat in the next few nights, and if you remember, we're going to get these again brand new fresh out in the garden in a few days. So there's no sense letting these sit in the fridge and go to waste, and I don't want to throw them out to the chickens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grate them into this bowl, and then we're going to measure them into 2.5 cups and freeze them, because that's the recipe that our zucchini bread, that's the amount that it needs. But zucchini bread is not the only thing you can do with zucchini. If you have this stuff frozen in the freezer, you can take it out, put it in soups and such, and grated zucchini would basically disappear into spaghetti sauce, and zucchini takes on the flavor of anything it's cooked with. So if you got one of those kids that'll eat the spaghetti but not the vegetables, this is a good way to get the vegetables into the spaghetti. They won't even know it's there. It'll just disintegrate into your sauce, and they'll be eating their vegetables. Got all of our zucchini grated. Now we're going to put it in the Ziploc bags. You don't have to break out a measuring cup. A quart bag is 4 cups, so we will fill it just over half full. That'll be our 2.5 cups. Now, another great thing you can do with grated zucchini is you can make an omelet with it, like a little frittata. Throw that in the skillet and kind of warm it. It doesn't take but a second to cook that. And then pour the eggs over it and add some cheese. You got a really nice omelet. Or you can mix some eggs, some cornmeal, and some flour, salt, and pepper with that and make little zucchini patties and fry those up for a side. Are really good. So I'm going to bag these babies up. We got 3 good bags of grated zucchini for future use, extending the harvest. Make sure you roll these bags, roll all the air out of them, zip them about 3/4 of the way shut. Make sure you're using freezer bags, and then roll that bag real tight and then zip the last of it at the last second. And then that'll get all the air out of your bag so you're not getting freezer burn in your bag. All right, folks, that wraps our morning in the garden. We've got our harvest extended with that zucchini in the freezer. You always want to take advantage when you have the abundance of something and put it away for a long winter. Take advantage when you have it, because you're not always going to have it. You might not have a good crop next year. So get it while you got it and put it away. So till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here on Mark Kelly Farm. We hope you enjoyed our video today as much as we liked being out in the garden. Morning's the best time to be out in the garden. I absolutely love it. See you next time.